Hello. All right, so the grammar and craft video here is about works cited and in-text citations. So this would not be an upper level English class if I did not go over this. It's fundamental to college English. And AP is, of course, that. It is the intro to composition class, or more the intro to the English major class. So works cited and in-text citations. To be honest, these are not critical in an assignment like this. You could easily explain your sources because you only have one or two. You wouldn't need to have a long list of them because your list is going to be super small. Even for the longer paper we're going to do, which is 3 pages, the works cited, it's a mere formality because you don't really have so many sources that you can't just explain them in your paper. But when you are one day writing a dissertation and you have 75 sources, a works cited is critical. So what we're really doing here is just practice. It's preparing for the assignments that will slowly get longer and longer and longer. And we catch you at the starting line to make sure you know what to do. It's possible that you do know what to do already, in which case I can give you some speedy direction and send you on your way. So for this, we'll use the MLA style, Modern Language Association. That's something that most literary studies uses. There are other formats you might encounter. I just want to briefly mention those. There's Chicago style, which is usually used in history contexts. And the big difference there is you have footnotes next to your source citations. And then at the very end, you'll have the endnotes where it shows you everything that you've used. So in many ways, Chicago style is a bit of a cleaner read. It's just little numbers all the way through. But MLA style is what the humanities of literature prefers. There's also APA style. I've got this little graphic here, which is useful, I think. This is the soft sciences. I think there's probably a better word for the technical sciences, like psychology, sociology, economics. And then the hard sciences each have their own style. There's a style for the chemistry associations and the medical associations. So each has their own. But you can take a look at this if you're curious about APA. It's possible you've been asked to generate APA or Chicago style so far. I certainly had to for my psychology class, for example. And it's possible that you already know MLA style. So here is the task. I'd like you to include a brief MLA formatted works cited, brief, I assume, because of the brevity of the assignment, at the end of your mini essay, your 2 or maybe 3 paragraphs. I'd like you to also use in-text citations in your paragraphing, including in-text citations for Dostoevsky. So if you know what to do, that's it. And you can stop this video and you're good. But if you don't know, or if you need a refresher, I'm going to explain how you go about creating those things. So I have 3 links here, and they'll be in the lecture box as well. And you can use them for anything you need to. You can copy my works cited and make your own exactly off my model. The in-text citation handout is for you. You can keep it. And then the Purdue Owl Writing Lab that I'm linking has got everything you might need in terms of information about how to cite. I'm going to click on each one quickly and show you what they look like when they're done well. So here's my sample works cited, and yours will probably look like this. You won't have a new page because it'll be part of your assignment, and in the post it will be just copied at the end of your post. But you're probably going to have 2 or 3 sources. If you have the Signet Classics version of Crime and Punishment, you should copy my works cited, make your own copy of it, and just use that citation. Because it's not stealing or cheating. We're just trying to do our best to pay homage to the people who did the primary sources, and we can share each other's versions of those things. Yours will look exactly like mine. And then I use Wikipedia. And as I said briefly in creative analysis, you shouldn't use it for a long research paper. In a long research paper, you'll go to Wikipedia, maybe to start your research, and you'll find at the end, here by the way, all of this is Chicago style, the references they use, and you'll go to these sources directly. And that's where Wikipedia is amazing because it collects so many of these sources that are useful for your topic. Obviously, I should go get this book, Dostoevsky, A Writer in His Time, And I tried to for this, but it's a mini assignment and the book is $15 and it's okay. You know, we don't have to go overboard. We're just trying to touch the topics, not deeply understand them. So I'm going to use the Wikipedia page itself. Love this little trick here if you ever find yourself needing to use it. On the side, you can write or click on Cite This page. And then you go down to the MLA style manual and you copy it, Control-C, and paste it directly into your document. This is fine. It's not cheating. This is what we're trying to do as an academic community, not just this class, but all scholars everywhere, is make the work of this a little bit easier. It's about accuracy, and it's not about novelty or creativity. And then lastly, I use Jstor. And Jstor, as I mentioned briefly in my creative analysis, is a great resource for you. They have a package where you can get 100 free articles a month. Once you go to a secondary institution, or even some high schools, I suppose, but certainly colleges, you'll have access to this just by virtue of your tuition. But for this, it's free for anybody. You just would max out at 100, and probably you haven't. For this too, you can see they have the citations as neatly done as they can. This is not the correct format for what MLA is asking me to do, but I have all of the information I need. So I copied that over to my Works Cited page, and then I reframed it in Works Cited format. But how do you do that? How is Works Cited format done? I'm going to skip down to the Purdue Owl Writing Lab, and this is just your best friend. They actually change the rules for citations. They often relax them. Often there's new genres that appear, and we need to address them. So I go here because it's the most current research on how we should be formatting things. And you can search for the particular kind of formatting you've been asked to do. I can even Google, and I often do, things like this: Purdue Owl Cite, hey look, it's even in my history, novel. And it will remind you exactly how you're supposed to cite a novel in MLA format. So it'll give you the general format for any citation, and then it'll give you a couple of samples like that. So all of this is just good resources, a good resource for you to have and keep. And the last resource that I'll go over briefly is in Text Citations. If you know this and you don't need to have this instruction, you can stop at any time. These are my collected thoughts, my collected wisdoms on how you are to cite something within the text in MLA format. Again, in APA or in Chicago style, you wouldn't do this. You would use footnotes, little numbers, and superscript. All right, so there is a really particular way that you're going to be doing it in MLA format. And I'm going to go through some of the hang-ups that catch people. When you're quoting an author from Dr. Seuss, the literary scholar you just read, include his or her or their last name and the page number. That's it. Technically, you only need the last name in the first citation of the paragraph, and after that, you can just do the number. And that happens right here. So here's my first quote from the author here, author 1, and my second quote needs no author name, just the number. That's especially helpful for you when you're writing your second paragraph on applications to crime and punishment. You don't need to write Dostoevsky each time. It's unnecessary. The whole goal of this is to help other readers understand where these things are, but they'll know it's in Crime and Punishment, and so you'll say the very first time Dostoevsky 172 and the second 178, and that will be enough. All right, no matter where your quote appears in the sentence, your parenthetical citation goes at the end of the sentence. That's a good thing to remember. Your quote and all your supporting words to explain your quote go in front of the citation at the end, which is here. Then, notice the formatting. The periods that end the sentence go after the parentheses, here, even if the ending punctuation is part of the quote. So here's a good example. Like some ancient anointing in the novel, there's a period there, but save it for after the parentheses. But then, of course, are exceptions. Exclamation points and question marks go inside the quotation marks no matter what to help readers retain the meaning of those sentences. So when the novel I'm using here is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. The man says, "Do you understand?" to the boy. Include the question mark there before the quotation marks, or it would look really strange, as it does in this wrong example. Then, commas that helped the quoted sentence sound smoother go inside the quotation marks. So a comma was part of the original sentence, and I am indeed clipping that phrase. I'm going to retain the comma because it adds the same cohesiveness and clarity to the sentence in the novel as it does in my reading of the novel. Lastly, two little pieces of information. Use points of ellipses to indicate parts of the text that you've clipped from the middle of your quote. So if I'm going to quote, especially from scholarly journals, so here is my analysis sentence. My quote, ... I just left stuff out on purpose. That's the appropriate way to show a longer quote. That's true whenever you're quoting in Crime and Punishment, but it's certainly true of your scholarly articles. You don't need to do that in the beginning or the end of your quote because readers assume you've left off places. You're not quoting the whole thing. They don't need to know that you've clipped things at the beginning of the quote and the end. And then lastly, use sentences, brackets in the sentences to adjust verbs, to adjust slight things about him to increase clarity in your sentences. All right, there's your speedy tour through incorporating quotes. And again, you're welcome to keep this and have it. It's for you as you include those in-text citations in your short little essay here.